The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the participants and do not reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
BronxNet. Your voice, your views, your vision.
And hello and welcome to Open, the one and only show that opens the Bronx and the rest of the world right to you. I'm your host, Darren Jaime, and today we'll update you on what's happening in and around our community and the world. First up, we'll hear from a Montefiore doctor who has been recently appointed to a prominent medical board in Westchester County. A little later on, we'll continue our Law A to Z series with the letter F, telling you all you need to know about false arrests. Plus, America's Money Answers Man will give you some insight on what you need to know regarding that holiday debt, healthcare spending, and the big bank settlements. And after that, we'll find out about a rising culture right here in our borough and the role that they're playing in mainstream politics and the economy. Finally, our political analyst will join us to break down some of the latest stories happening and taking over the headlines, both nationally and internationally. So stay tuned, because all this and much more is heading your way, because right now, we're officially open. Bronxites, I'm your host, Darren Jaime. Today is Wednesday, January 9th, 2013. Of course, you're watching Open, the only live interactive program bringing the Bronx and New York City straight to your TV set. Now, we do want to hear from you, so tweet us throughout the show at BronxNet TV. We'll tell you about what's on the air throughout our program, and we encourage you also to share your tweets, and you might just get a tweet back from us. Well, our first guest is a doctor at Montefiore's Children's Hospital. Recently, she was appointed to the Westchester County Laboratory and Research Board of Managers, where her tasks include overseeing quality assurance as well as budgetary matters. She's here now to discuss these tasks as well as juvenile diabetes, a disease widely spread throughout our borough. We welcome now Dr. Rubina Heptela to the Open, and we thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And congratulations to you.
Thank you.
So exactly what does this new position mean?
The new position is I'm part of a board of 4 other members at Westchester County. Some of them are physicians, and we oversee many laboratories that are functioning in Westchester County, including the forensic laboratory, and we work with Dr. Asher, who's the medical examiner for Westchester County, and I work at Montefiore Medical Center at the Children's Hospital, but I live in Westchester County in Rye.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think that you're going to be able to bring to the board to help them to get to the next level?
I have just been appointed, and my goals are to understand what the current situation of the county laboratories are and provide oversight and quality assurance to the many laboratories that are functioning in the county.
Mm-hmm. There are a lot of budgetary matters, and so how do you deal with the equality when it comes to budgetary matters? Because we hear so much, and we talk about it here on the news, about cuts, and especially cuts to the medical field and things of that nature. How are you going to be able to tackle and deal with some of these budgetary issues?
I think it's going to be challenging going forward. I think the laboratories have been protected from a lot of budgetary cuts because we want to have quality in the laboratory setting.
Mm-hmm. And so as far as wanting to see something happen, if you could really say, like right now, I feel like, I'm glad I'm appointed to the board, there's something that I really want to see happen, what would that be?
I would like to have the highest quality work being done in those laboratories. I think that is the main thing that I would like to see. At some point, if they had to restructure or something of that nature, this is the board that would look into those issues as well.
Mm-hmm. Here in the borough of the Bronx is where you're housed, and you've been doing some great work here. And a lot of it's been centered on diabetes, particularly juvenile diabetes. Are we seeing rising numbers continuously? Because we know this is really a pandemic here for us in the borough. Are the numbers continuing to rise, or are we seeing a falling off?
What I want to say that there are two types of diabetes. There's type 1 diabetes and type 2 diabetes. Type 1 diabetes has always been present in the Bronx and throughout the world in children. And that occurs because of autoimmune disease. What you're talking about, juvenile diabetes, is really diabetes associated with obesity, which used to occur in adults with type 2 diabetes, but now it's happening earlier in teenagers and adolescents, and even as young as 8 years of age. So that is on the rise. That is an exponential rise. And as long as the obesity epidemic continues, this rise in pediatric type 2 diabetes will mirror the rise in pediatric obesity.
So when you talk about our borough, we look at the fact that there is obesity, we talk about childhood obesity amongst young people. So these are definitely contributing factors in the area of diabetes. What can you recommend to a parent that might be out there watching who says, listen, I want to make sure that my child doesn't get on this track, and if they are on this track, what are some of the symptoms and things they need to really look out for?
So it's really important, if your child is overweight, to get to your pediatrician on time so they can give you the advice necessary to have a better diet. It's also important to keep your child active in the school and at home. Take them to the parks and encourage the school to have more gym. Just yesterday, a family told me that they didn't have gym anymore because the basketball team was practicing, so they stopped the other kids from having gym. But gym is not something optional for schools. It should be just part of the curriculum. One day they may say, no, I don't think we're going to have science fair, or we're not going to do science in our school. Well, that's not an option. The same way gym is not an option that parents, and parents need to be advocates for their children. So if they want to monitor for symptoms, the things that they need to really watch out for is if there's an obese child that starts to lose weight for no particular reason, then it would be abnormal. That would be indication that diabetes is happening. Or they have increased urination, and actually they're very thirsty. So if they have these three symptoms, weight loss, increased urination, and increased thirst, it is a symptom of both types of diabetes, type 1 and type 2 diabetes. And that's very urgent. They need to get to a hospital.
You're the doctor. A lot of people fear the doctor. Let's just be real. There's a lot of people saying the last thing I want to do is go to the doctor and deal with the doctor. But when you deal in the area of diabetes, very treatable.
Yes.
So give us a little bit about treatment and letting people know, because some people fear the worst, but there are some treatments, and it's also somewhat preventable.
Exactly. I think the best treatment is prevention. When your child is getting overweight, which we now unfortunately see even toddlers getting overweight, is to put a stop to those regular sodas and switch them over to water, or diet at least, if nothing else. Stop those junk foods, stop buying those big bags of Cheetos at home. Encourage the children to eat more vegetables and fruit, and get out there and get some fresh air and exercise. I think that would be the best way to prevent diabetes in children at all, because we never saw this 15 years ago. This is new for our field. I can say that in medical school I never learned about pediatric type 2 diabetes. There was no such thing. So it's all preventable. But once you get diabetes, you still need to continue on this path of lifestyle modifications, of exercise and good healthy eating. And then if that fails, of course there's medication, which many of our children do go on, but it's not the end of the world. They can continue to take medications, continue to have a healthy lifestyle, and continue to function normally in school and be good citizens in the future. It's just that unfortunately complications would occur earlier now because they were children when they were diagnosed as having diabetes.
And it seems like a very simple question to ask, but I do. Somebody has diabetes, they say, I'll never be able to get over it. That answer is?
That's not true. You will be able to overcome just about everything. And I think you can have a normal life as long as you follow the instructions of the doctor, follow lifestyle modifications, take your medications, check your blood sugar, and things will be good.
Dr. Rubina Heptela is the chief of the division of the pediatric endocrinology and diabetes at the Children's Hospital of Montefiore Medical Center. And as we said, she's been recently appointed to the Westchester County Laboratories and Research Board of Managers. Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Now, have you already started? When do you start? What is it, with the board? When does it start?
I think in the next couple of months we have our first meeting.
All righty. Well, best wishes. You come back and let us know how things are going.
Thank you so much. Thank
All
you.
righty. Dr. Rubina Heptela. Well, we got to take a quick break, but guess what? When we return, we are going to put our legal expert on the stand. But first, the Bronx Hospital teamed up with a local church to spread awareness about sickle cell anemia. Our BronxNet correspondent, Arlene Makoko, was there, and she brings us the story.
Bronx Lebanon Hospital Sickle Cell Hemoglobinopathy Network and the New Covenant Dominion Cathedral Church hosted a health fair to provide screenings and information to the public on sickle cell anemia.
Within the Bronx and the areas where you have low-income families, the health disparity is an issue. We also find out that that's that process where you need to connect people with resources and education, affordable healthcare option, so that it makes life a little easier for them.
Meanwhile, Carlos Sierra, already there to provide information on immigration rights, decided to get tested also.
Well, I think it's important for people to get tested and know their status, whether they go tested for HIV or any other disease. It's important. It's vital for us to know our status so that we can better address it.
A program coordinator with Bronx Lebanon Sickle Cell Program, Dina Valentin, was among those providing details on the nature of the disease.
Sickle cell disease is a genetic disorder. It affects the blood. The only way it can be stopped is through genetic counseling. Reach out to the people with sickle cell trait and tell them, okay, if you have a partner with the same trait, you could have a child with sickle cell disease, and there's a way to prevent that.
Mark Goodwin is the project's program coordinator. He says the borough has the highest number of cases when compared to the others. He hopes that this event encourages people to get screened.
We find that a lot of people actually don't know their trait status. They may not have been born in New York or the U.S. They may be immigrants. Or even if they were born here, 20 years later, their parents didn't tell them, they don't remember. So they're of childbearing age, and we're encouraging people to be tested for sickle cell trait.
Along with testing for sickle cell, there were other services being provided, like information on housing and health insurance. There was also a Bronx Lebanon mobile van that was parked outside providing blood screenings. Next to it, a Morris Heights Health Center van providing HIV tests. Volunteers and staffers appreciate the attention they're getting, especially now during this holiday season.
These children come from the schools, and they the one that participate to give out the food.
Here they are, about half a dozen students from Mott Hall 3 School with their teacher, Miss Nicole Stroud.
So, what are you going to do here today? I see some of them already made up.
We put food in the bags, and then people's going to come pick them up.
Health, food, and of course guidance in various areas. One of the things that our community development does is to reach out to everyone in the community, in the area of health, in the area responding to hunger and poverty, education, literacy.
Bronx Lebanon Hospital will be taking the samples they collected back to their lab and will be reaching out to individuals by letter. If you'd like more information on the disease, you can contact Mark Goodwin directly at 718-579-7337. For BronxNet, this is Arlene Makoko.
So here are the keys. Congratulations, it's officially yours. I'm sure you'll have many happy years here. Except for you, because you'll be gone 3 years from now, struck down by the same disease that got your father. So you won't be around for them. And sadly, it could have been detected early with a simple test, but you didn't have it. Okay, who wants to check out the backyard?
For a list of tests every man should have, go to ahrq.gov.
Be free. Nice, Dad. Nice, Dad. Nice.
Charles!
Nice, Dad.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of siblings in foster care who'll take you just as you are. G-Morning, sunshine. Wakey, wakey. Text me. Are your parents home later? We can hang. LUV, love you. JK. Holla back. Holla back. Holla back. Are you with your friends? That's lame. We're in a huge fight right now. XO. What'd you dream about? Something I did. Are you on your way to the mall? Lonely. Nude pics. Send me some. Text me.
In today's edition of our Legal Corner, we will continue our Law A to Z series talking about false arrest, the letter F, and specifically what you need to know if you fall victim to this. We welcome back our attorney and legal correspondent, David Lesh, to the show. And David, we hear a lot of times on news, we do the news and we see things called the perp walk where somebody's actually been arrested for something. And
Correct.
Unfortunately, we don't always tell the story when somebody else, is actually, it's been a false arrest. And this is something that you're talking
Well, it
about.
happens more often than you think. And when you have a false arrest, you have certain civil claims that arise. You have a claim for false arrest. You have a claim for false imprisonment. You have a claim for malicious prosecution. But let's start really from the beginning, right? Let's say, you're picked up and you're brought to the precinct and you're fingerprinted. Once at that point, you may not even be charged, but let's say you're fingerprinted and you're booked at this point. Well, that's already a false arrest. So that's already started. Now they put you behind bars and they hold you for 24 hours or 36 hours. That's a false imprisonment. So you have that. Now the prosecutor decides to go forward with the case, even though there might be evidence to suggest that you really never did the crime to begin with. That's a malicious prosecution. So the question is, well, who do you bring these actions against? Let's kind of separate it to begin with. Well, you can always bring an action in civil court in Bronx County or any of the counties in New York City against the city of New York, right? And I do this all the time. You'd have to file what's called a notice of claim. You have to do it within 90 days of the arrest, all right? 90 days from that particular time, and you state in the notice of claim that there's been a false arrest, and there's probably going to be a prosecution as well, so you would claim it there as well. Then after you have this particular notice of claim filed within the 90 days, you'll then have a hearing. It's called a 50H hearing. And you'll have a hearing, and only once the hearing is finished will you then be able to bring a lawsuit for what you're claiming in the notice of claim. So it's a little technical, but that's really how you're going to go in terms of a legal road. Now, the issue of false arrest is a little bit tricky because many times what law enforcement is doing is they're looking at the circumstances surrounding what witnesses are telling them, and they're going to your home or wherever it is, and they're asking you to come down to the precinct when you don't have to come to the precinct to begin with. So you have to be very careful. When a police officer says to you, well, just come down, just calls you up on the phone and says, come to the precinct, we just want to talk to you. Well, that's can be a little bit of a trick sometimes. In other words, they're trying to get you to go down to the precinct to make a confession that they don't necessarily have against you anyway, to make their life easier. They might say they may say things that, well, we have a couple of defendants who've already implicated you. We'll go easy on you if you just admit that you did it. We have your fingerprints. We have your DNA evidence. We have this already. So, but meanwhile,
you probably would have had me in already.
Exactly.
Right.
So you don't have to go to the precinct. Just because they give you a call doesn't mean that you should go down there. Second, another possible trick they do is they knock on the door and they say, we just want to look around. Well, what do you say to somebody when they say we just want to? The police officer knocks and says we want to just look around. The first thing you say is, do you have a warrant? If you do, I'd like to see it. If you don't, well, I don't really feel comfortable right now having you come in and look around, because whenever you let them in, you're giving them permission to then look around, and whatever they find can be used against you in criminal court. Now, what ends up happening is a lot of times people are falsely arrested, when you are falsely arrested, sometimes you feel, well, you know what, I don't want to go through all the embarrassment of having to fight this. It's minor. I'm just going to plead to something very, very minor. But
biggest mistake people can make.
Absolutely. You have to make sure that you see a lawyer, and if you didn't do it, then you didn't do it. There's no reason you should be pleading to anything. And by the way, if you have any reason to believe that you have evidence that could be used on your behalf, the minute you leave that precinct after you're booked, you write it down. Don't write it down while you're in the precinct, because anything you write down many times they can take and use it against you as a confession or something else. But
now, I guess the question is, because there are a lot of people out there say, listen, you know what? Given the current climate and times, it's going to be hard to really defend myself against the police department for something that occurs like that. Your answer to them is?
Well, answer is, the first thing you do is after you write down everything that you think will help you, names of witnesses, because you're going to forget these things, exactly what happened, give a timeline, write it down for yourself. After you leave the precinct, you see an attorney immediately. Now remember, the Constitution affords you the right to counsel if you can't afford one, which means that legal aid, whoever it is, or you can have your own private attorney. What you do is you give this information to the attorney, and immediately the attorney is going to ask for your own DNA evidence, whatever is needed to disprove that it wasn't you. Okay, and this is very, very important, because many times people are afraid to tell their lawyer things. You know, I have clients all the time. I don't even do criminal work. I do mostly civil work, personal injury work, different medical malpractice type of work. And the clients, they're afraid to tell me these things. And then when time for a deposition comes, I say, well, if you just would have told me that, I would have told you it was okay to say that. By not saying it, now you have a problem. You have to tell your lawyer everything. It's confidential. So tell your lawyer everything. Then the lawyer will go out, interview witnesses, interview different people, look at evidence, look at fingerprint analysis, maybe get somebody an investigator to go to the scene, take pictures to disprove that it wasn't you at the scene. And if it turns out that you were falsely arrested, falsely imprisoned, and you have a claim for malicious prosecution, you can then have a civil attorney continue the action for you. But remember, Darren, this is the most important thing. If you haven't filed that notice of claim within 90 days of the false arrest, it's not going to matter.
Right.
Do you understand?
So you have 90 days.
Right.
That's the most important.
That's the most you have. So at least even if you're so worried about your criminal action, which you should be, and you get a criminal attorney to defend you, if within the 90 days you don't have somebody file the notice of claim for you, then even if you end up having the case dismissed or the prosecution just drops the charges, you're not going to be able to maintain a claim against the City of New York for false arrest or a title, what's called the Section 1983 Federal Civil Rights claim, which you can also make a claim if there's an officer involved.
Let me ask, how often are we seeing a lot of success with these cases that go before judges when it comes to false arrest, particularly here in the city?
All the time. And I don't usually say that when I sit on set. I tell you all the time these cases are being won and they're prosecuted successfully in the civil court. Many times people are being picked up from the stop and frisk and the different programs throughout the city. They're brought in, they're prosecuted, and then they never committed the crime all the time. And the City of New York is paying on these cases. If you take a look at the statistics, going way up, whereas other monies that they're paying for in other liabilities throughout the city are going down. These claims for false arrest, police brutality, false imprisonment, malicious prosecution, they're going up. So because there's the City of New York, the police department are attempting to bring in so many people for these petty crimes. The crimes didn't really occur. I have a particular case in my office right now for a young man who was accused of shoplifting in one of the I think it was could have been the Toys R Us. I'm not quite sure where it was, but it was shoplifting, and the video clearly showed that he did not commit this crime, and yet they brought him in the back. They strip searched him. They did everything they were supposed to. They took him to the precinct. They booked him. Legal aid said, got the case and said, look, I'm reviewing the video. You've had the video. You, police department, have had the video. Store had the video. It's not it. He didn't take anything. You could see from the video. But they continued to prosecute until the judge finally threw the case out, screaming and yelling at the prosecution. You wasted everybody's time. And you humiliated him, embarrassed him. Guess what? Now he has me as a civil attorney, and I'm suing not only the police department, but I'm also suing the store as well for a false arrest.
Wow. Pretty interesting stuff. And that's the story that goes on.
That's the story for letter F today.
All righty, false arrest. David Lesh, we'll see you back for letter G soon.
You got it.
All righty, got to take a quick break, but guess what? Coming up, we're going to hear from our open financial expert. He's coming up right after the break. Stay with us. Coming right back.
I remember how much you said you liked mine. Oh.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of siblings in foster care who'll take you just as you are.
There is also a very attractive extended warranty option that includes free service and parts for the next 5 years. But there's no need for you to get that. You failed to get the test you needed at the doctor that would have detected disease early enough where it could have been treated. So you won't be around in 2 years to see him grow up, which means the warranty would be useless. Okay, sign here, please.
For a list of tests every man should have, go to ahrq.gov.
Well, you've seen him appear all over the country, and he's right here on BronxNet's Open. He's America's money man. He has the answers, and he joins us today to discuss how to deal with that holiday debt. You know you got it, all that Christmas shopping you did, the rising cost of health insurance, the 10 big bank settlements, and all you need to know about your financial future in 2013. We welcome financial expert and author Jordan Goodman to the studio. And Jordan, good to have you.
Great to be with
you.
you.
We Skyped last time. You're here in person. Listen, that's good. Last time we were talking about the fiscal cliff.
Right.
Really concerned about whether we were going to go over the cliff.
We went over for 2 days.
For 2 days. So the final score is what? We're still worried about?
Well, nothing was changed. Nothing really was solved. There was a big tax increase on the rich, $620 billion over the next 10 years. Mm-hmm. So it's about $60 billion a year. We got the tax revenue, and then we immediately spent it for the Sandy relief, which is necessary, but it's not as though it improved the deficit in any way whatsoever. We have a triple header coming up on March 1st, actually. The national debt ceiling has to be increased. The so-called sequester, which was put off on January 1st, means $110 billion in expenses have to be cut as of March 1st, or something's got to be done there. Mm-hmm. And the so-called continuing resolution. The government has not had a budget for over 4 years, so they have to resume the continuing resolution. So all three crises will happen at once about 2 months from now.
Pretty much it was just a pause button until March.
Exactly.
We just did what we had to do.
Kick the can down the road, right?
That's it. Well, listen, talk about kick the can down the road. Listen, we tried to kick the can down the road on some of these bills that we're going to owe for holiday
The can
shopping.
has arrived.
It's arriving as we speak, right. Many people are suffering with holiday debt now,
right,
and dealing with it. First of all, if I'm incurring holiday debt, what are some of the major things I need to know right up front?
Well, going into the holidays, it's too late now. Right. Only spend what you can afford. A lot of people didn't do that. The numbers just came out. Consumer credit was up 7% in December. So people were spending a lot. A lot of them spending online. People in the past used to go to stores, but now it's very tempting. You just click a few buttons, but the bills are coming in right now. So a few things you can do. If you have high interest credit card debt and you have decent credit, meaning like 650 or higher credit score, you can get better credit cards. You don't have to be paying 20, 25, 30%. Mm-hmm. I like to give websites. So a website to help people, creditcardperks.com, Perks.com. Mm-hmm. All the best deals are out there to get lower interest credit cards. Mm-hmm. Second thing is if you have a lot of high interest credit card debt, then you can't get better credit cards because your debt to income ratio is out of whack. Use a non-profit credit counseling place because they will give you all your debt into one payment at a lower interest rate, typically like 6 or 7%, and help you get out of debt much quicker than you ever can on your own. My favorite place there, it's called Cambridge Credit Counseling. Their website, cambridgecredit.org. So that's something that can help you a little bit there.
So when you talk about credit card debt and you really look at the debt that you owe right now, in terms of paying things off, talk to us about paying these things off, because somebody said, listen, I overspent, I got to deal with paying these things. How do I approach paying them off?
If you can, do the highest interest first, and then lowest. And if you have decent credit, get one of these accounts and you can roll the balance into a 0% account for 6 months, a year, something like that, and then pay that responsibly. But you do not want to be paying 29, 25% because you're just paying the interest. You're making almost no progress in the principal. So that's the way to do it.
Good news seems to come for people who own mortgages.
Right. Okay. There was just a big deal this week where the 10 largest mortgage companies, Citibank, Wells Fargo, Chase, and so on, made an $8.3 billion settlement with the government because they'd been making kind of illegal foreclosures. They were kicking people out of their homes left and right who should not have have it happen to them. So of this, $3.3 billion is going to go to people who were kicked out of their homes if they can find them. I'm not sure how you find somebody who's been kicked out of their home. But $5.2 billion is going to go to people who are struggling right now with their mortgage payments to avoid foreclosure. They're either going to lower your payments or lower the amount that you owe to some significant degree. This is what's called a mortgage modification. And there's a website to help people there, modifymymortgage.com. And what they'll do is they look at your case And if you have a good case where you can afford a lower payment, they will modify your mortgage and keep you in your home. There's something like 3.8 million people who are currently in that circumstance. They're falling behind, heading towards foreclosure. Hopefully this new settlement that just happened yesterday will help.
And you talked about the fact of trying to find those people. Have they talked about
if you've been kicked out of your house, where do you find them?
Right, where are you going?
So, I mean, hopefully they can find some of these people, but for them, the damage has already been done. These are people who were foreclosed upon in 2009, 2010, and God knows what's happened to them since.
As far as the mortgage rates themselves, do you think they're pretty much going to stay where they are?
They've been going up lately. Yeah. Last time we spoke, they'd gotten down to the lowest levels ever, which was great. But lately, actually since the fiscal cliff debate was resolved temporarily, rates went from 3.3%, something like that, now up to about 3.6, 3.7. If your current mortgage rate is below 4%, it's still going to make sense for you to try to refinance today to get these rates. They're not quite as good as they were a month ago, but they're still very good. A website that can help people, smartmoneyrefi.com, gets you the best deal anywhere in the country. So take advantage of it while the rates are still low.
Give us a little bit about insurance rates. You got health insurance.
Health insurance are soaring. There was such a story over the weekend that in New York, health insurance premiums are going up 20 to 25%. Now, this is on top of what were already very high rates. A lot of people cannot afford health insurance, and particularly small businesses, which used to have health insurance, they can't handle a 20, 25% increase. So, in fact, since Obamacare came into effect, fewer people have health insurance, not more. So what I do myself, might be helpful, Darren, is what's called medical repricing. And there's a website for that, medicalrepricing.com. You get a discount card, which you use getting discounts 20, 30, 40% on all the medical providers within the network. You combine that with a high deductible plan, in my case $10,000 a year, and because the deductible is dramatically higher, the premium is dramatically lower, and therefore you can afford it. So your everyday medical expenses are being repriced, and you're getting discounts, and you're protected against disaster. That, to me, is the solution, because otherwise, if you have no health insurance, you are taking a huge financial risk. 50% of bankruptcies are because people have no health insurance and they have something go wrong with them, and it wipes them out financially.
You talk a lot in your book about this stuff. Let's give a minute to share a little bit about your book.
It's called Master Your Debt. Here it is right here, and there's a lot of ways you can do really well with your debt. Here, you show them how to do it.
Yeah, that's great.
So this book has really helped a lot of folks because you can do better with your mortgage, you can do better with your credit cards, student loans. If you do it right, we have very low interest rates. But if you do it wrong, and if you're paying 29% on your credit card, this is the worst of times. So at my website, moneyanswers.com, I've got a whole thing about that. There are some good resources. We've just given you a few to help them do better with their debt.
As people approach 2013 right now, it's the beginning of the new year. They want to get financially right because everybody makes these New Year's resolutions. Right. Some of them go bust within the first week, but there's some people who are really sticking to the plan. What are some good things that you can do in terms of money management during this time? Because it's a new time of year. People are excited.
Set up the right habits. A lot of people in the wrong habits. Okay. So, for example, save automatically. You know, your grandmother probably said it to you. Pay yourself first. It actually works. Put aside 10% of whatever you're making and get it out of your hands so you can't spend it somewhere. And then maybe invest it. Don't just have it sitting in a checking account earning nothing. Having it in a stock or a mutual fund. If you have a 401k, certainly max out on that. If your company is matching your 401k, one of my basic principles of personal finance, Darren, I hope you'd agree with, never refuse free money if it's given to you.
That's right. I can agree with that one.
So if you've got a 401k and they're matching you and you're not doing it, you are turning down free money. Something like 70% of the people offered 401ks take them up on it. So 30% are turning down free money all the time. So certainly sign up for that kind of thing. Save automatically. Some of the things we talked about, getting out of debt. Make sure you have enough insurance. Again, we talked about health insurance. If you don't have enough insurance, you are financially very, very vulnerable. So those are some things. And if you can, do a budget. Actually look at how much money you've got coming in, how much is going out, and see if they balance. If they don't balance, something's got to give.
Do you find that most Americans really don't put together a budget? They just live?
Most people do not. They live in a fantasy world. Somehow it'll all work out. Kind of rose-colored glasses. And I got to have a rough idea of what's coming in. I have no idea what's going out, and somehow I'll win the lottery. That'll be my solution.
Yeah. And then everybody gets on the Powerball line. And
this is what I call white knight syndrome. You know, everything's a mess, but this one white knight, this one lottery ticket's going to save me from all my bad habits. Usually doesn't work out too well.
Well, Jordan Goodman, thank you so much for coming to share with us. He'll be back here, of course, here on Open to give you more financial and money answer tips. And Jordan, thank you for coming.
Thanks so much, Darren. Appreciate it.
All righty. We've got to take a quick break, but guess what? There is more Open coming up when we return. We encourage you, stay with us. We're coming right back right after this.
Hey, how's it going?
Sir, are you okay?
What? Oh, this? It's probably nothing. I'm sure it'll go away.
Go away? But, sir, that can't be good.
No, it's cool. Really.
Do you want a napkin or something?
Everything's fine. Thanks.
You wouldn't ignore this. So why ignore the signs of a stroke? At the first warning signs, call 911 immediately. Because time lost is brain lost.
For you. Hey, Mom.
You know, girls, I used to cheer back in my day. Ready? Okay! Go team!
That was amazing. Mom, that was amazing.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of siblings in foster care who'll take you just as you are.
The magical thing about using energy wisely is that anyone can do it. Turn off lights. Use energy-saving light bulbs. And turn off computers and game systems when not in use. Make a change and we can really fly. Grab a grown-up and go online to energy.gov/kids.
Our next guest is extensively involved with community activities and community development work. Actually, he's here today to talk about Bangladeshi American issues right here in the Bronx, their rising population, and their role in mainstream politics and the economy. We welcome now community organizer Mohammed Majur to the show, and we thank you for coming to share with us.
Mohammed
And Majumdar. All right, so tell us a little bit about the Bangladeshi community here in the borough of the Bronx, because it's a rising community. And where can we find the Bangladeshi American population here?
Okay, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me here.
No problem.
We are a rising community here. I would say we have been rising since 1990. The major concentration here in the Bronx is in Parkchester. Parkchester condo, we have a huge population. I would say in overall Bronx we have more than 25,000 Bangladeshi Americans, and I would say 15,000 of them lives in Parkchester. And we are very actively involved with Bronx politics, Bronx everything, and I want to thank oftenly Borough President Robin Diaz Jr., who appointed almost 9 members of Bangladeshi community in the community board number 9, and I'm sure we have some other member in other boards also. So we are heavily concentrated in Parkchester area. The challenge that we are facing right now is the job, education, and most importantly navigating the government benefit. City have a lot of service. City have a lot of benefit offering to the new people, immigrant people, children, in terms of housing, welfare, and so on. But the problem is the people who come from Bangladesh and some part of the world, the country is not designed the way it is here. So they face serious challenge to go around to find the benefit that available.
So your access to resources, you're not finding that there's a lot of access to resources?
There are a lot of, yes, I would say they are not getting the clear access to the government benefit that the city government, state government, the federal government is offering. And I would suggest if city or the state level can open a sort of welcome center or to provide basic training for the new immigrants, so that they can have a clear idea as to how to move on their life, to get a job, to get the help, to get schooling their children, and so on.
So give us a little bit about this, because when it comes to jobs, you talk about the fact of jobs. Is it job training? Is it job availability? Which one is it? Because sometimes when you talk about the employment needs, the first predominant need sometimes is that of training before you can move on to employment. Are you in need of employment training or both?
I would say we need more training than the job, because the people from our area mostly, I would say, they're underemployed. Let's say there are a lot of lawyers coming, doctors coming, accountant coming. They could not go to their own field. So as a result, they're working like the driving taxi, working in a daily store, working in the construction labor. So we need job training and education to employ them to their level, up to their potential. So they would not be underemployed. There are many people you would find in the street. There was a doctor They have been a doctor in Bangladesh, but they're driving simply taxi because of the lack of resource, lack of training, lack of education. They could not go to their own field. So we have to reduce the level of underemployment and bring those people to their respective field. Like a lot of engineers coming in, they could not work as an engineer. They're probably working in a 99-cent store getting the minimum wage. So we need to look into, as the population growing, see how we can use these people in a very productive way. And most importantly, people, there are undocumented aliens and they are not paying taxes, they are hiding themselves. We have to raise our voice to for the comprehensive immigration into effect, so that we bring those people to the as a productive member of the society. They would contribute to the economy, they would make themselves good and make the economy look good. So I think those are the very important challenges our community is facing.
You talked at the beginning of the segment about Borough President Ruben Diaz Jr. appointing people to the community board. The Bangladeshi American community seems as though they want to really become engaged in the political process. Are you satisfied with the fact that you guys are now having a voice, and what do you feel that voice is going to be able to do for you?
Oh yes, sure. We are very satisfied with the management, with the leadership that Borough President Ruben Diaz is providing to the Bronx as well as to our community. And yes, our community, our people are very interested in the political process. They are involved, and we have, you know, as you know, the community board is a very advisory thing, and this is a very basic starting point. And they are not really any power. They can make change, but still, it is the beginning. We are learning. We are participating in the planning process. So it is a good start, and I think they are giving us our fair share, and our people is moving forward in terms of politics. I'm not here to discuss politics. I'm here mostly to see how we can empower immigrants and new immigrants and the minorities. So that is my core principle, core value, core work that I always do. I believe on, because when I came in this country initially, I see how difficult the life is. And I don't want the people who are coming now should face the same thing that I faced. I was in the street last 6 years in order for me to find a better job, to get a city job, to go to law school. I did everything, and I found it a terrible situation for the people who come here. Is totally new. They need a lot of help. And this help must be provided by the government level, and some of them must be provided by the community organization. People who claim that we are the community leader, they must take a role to take their own community and help them real help by providing workshop, seminar, symposium, give them a clear idea as to move on to their life. Are you finding that? Are you finding that because you know the Bronx is a melting pot for many many different communities. You know, you have the Irish community. We've talked about the Garifuna community. Now we're here talking about the Bangladeshi American community. Yes, yeah. Are you finding that these resources are now becoming more available and people are becoming more aware of the Bangladeshi community, particularly here in our borough? Sure. Yeah, it is doing better. Since 2005, in my own office, I opened a legal information clinic. And in that clinic, every Saturday from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., I welcome everyone. I give a 5-minute lecture that how to move on, how to evaluate their certificate, where to evaluate their certificate, where to find the job, who to contact, a list of the food stamp office, welfare office, schools that provide language. So I provide all of them in basic. I have a clerk there to and train enough how to do this type of thing. So everyone should involve and give some of their time, little bit of their time to the people who are behind or who are just coming to this country. Immigration reform is something that you're very passionate about. It's something that you really want to see. What are some of the things that we can really do from your perspective in regards to immigration reform that can, strengthen the ties of the Bangladeshi American community? To make the immigration reform happen, everyone who believes on the immigration reform, which is a very good thing, they should call their congressman, they should call their federal senator, and so that if everybody calls, they have a number of they have a accounting how many people calls in their jurisdiction, in their constituency, so they can raise these boys. And this is so important. According to the census, they have more than 12 million people is undocumented, and if it could be more than that. If we bring those people, let's say if everybody pay taxes, if everybody come to the civil process, register for the vote, and the vote, that will make huge difference. Look at the Bronx. We have the lowest turnover to the vote election center. We have in the Bronx, in the Assembly district, we have 150,000 population. Only 5,000 people vote and decide their elected official. So in the election process, people not participating, and people registering their name like independent, maybe Republican, not knowing that what it is, and most of the time they cannot vote because you are independent. There is no independent candidate because it's mostly Democrat.
So if people want to find out more information about your organization, Muhammad, where do they go and how do they do it?
Okay, our goal is to our slogan is to bridge to the mainstream. We connect the people. We divert our community to the mainstream politics, mainstream work, how to get a job, how to find a job, how to evaluate their certificate, how to register. Most importantly, how to register themselves to the election process. So we divert our community to the mainstream instead of, because we have our country people when come here they want involved with the Bangladesh politics here. That to me it's not very important. The important thing is to involve with the mainstream here in the Bronx.
Well, Muhammad, thank you so much for sharing with us. If you wanted more information about where you can contact Muhammad, you saw the website that was listed at the bottom of the screen. You can get in contact with him, and keep up the good work.
Thank you.
All righty, stay right here. We're going to take a quick break. You can't leave us, right? We have to stay right here. And then coming up after the break, we are going to break down the latest headlines in national politics. Our political analyst will join us here on set when we return right after this. Don't go anywhere.
Did you find the flashlight and the batteries?
Yes.
Did you make sure we're not missing anything in the first aid kit?
Yep.
Did you go through the plan with the kids again?
Yes. The more you prepare today, the more you'll be able to reduce the devastating effects of a tornado, an earthquake, a power outage, or any other disaster.
There is also a very attractive extended warranty option that includes free service and parts for the next 5 years. But there's no need for you to get that. You failed to get the test you needed at the doctor that would have detected disease early enough where it could have been treated. So you won't be around in 2 years to see him grow up, which means the warranty would be useless. Okay, sign here, please.
For a list of tests every man should have, go to ahrq.gov.
How are you? Hey, Mom.
You know, girls, I used to cheer back in my day. Ready? Okay! Go team!
That was amazing. Mom, that was amazing.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of siblings in foster care who'll take you just as you are.
Hands can do incredible things. Now they can even help save a life with hands-only CPR. If you see an adult suddenly collapse, just call 911, then push hard and fast in the center of the chest until help arrives. Learn more at handsonlycpr.org.
Every month to break down the latest in national and international headlines. He's here today to discuss some of these headlines, including the new Secretary of State, the rising unrest in the Middle East, and we welcome now political analyst and SUNY Maritime Professor Mark Meyritz to this show. And Mark, as we talk again, things continue to heat up in Washington, D.C. Latest news is John Kerry looks to be the new Secretary of State.
And Chuck Hagel also as the new Secretary of Defense. Big change is coming.
Secretary of State Clinton is stepping aside, Leon Panetta, the Defense Secretary, stepping aside, a whole new group of people, a whole new cast of characters, and at the CIA, John Brennan has been nominated to be the CIA director, replacing General Petraeus, who was engulfed in a scandal. The question is now whether or not these nominations will be approved at the Senate. Under our Constitution, the Senate has the right of advice and consent, which means any nominee that the President wants for his cabinet has to be submitted to the United States Senate. A number of the senators have expressed extreme reservations about Hagel, really not much about Kerry, and also about Brennan. On the Brennan issue is because of Benghazi, because the senators want to know what the CIA was doing at the time in terms of Benghazi and what they were telling the administration when Susan Rice went on these talk shows and said, oh, it's a protest about a movie, when in fact it was actually a terrorist attack. As far as Chuck Hagel is concerned, there we have a possibility of a real all-out fight between the President and the Senate on his nominee. For the reasons that Hagel has made some statements over the years that some feel are critical of Israel, not strong enough on Iran, and also some comments that he made about an ambassador who happened to be gay, and some of those comments were found to be or thought to be very inappropriate.
But when you talk about John Kerry, though, it seems to be no problem whatsoever.
No problem at all, I don't think. Kerry is the Foreign Relations Committee chairman in the Senate. And the Senate is the body that's going to vet this individual, so I don't think there'll be any problem on Kerry whatsoever. That one will sail through, no problem. On the others, potential big-time problems coming down the road.
How much egg in the face Republican Party looks at talking about Hillary Clinton, talking about she didn't want to come forward and talk about Benghazi. Now we understand the fact that she does have a blood clot and she was treated for a blood clot. How much of this is an egg on the face for Republican parties and those that were opposing, putting the story out there?
Well, I mean, it happened to turn out fortuitously or otherwise that Hillary Clinton, unfortunately, had a medical emergency. And, you know, we wish her well and all of that. But the question is, the Benghazi issue is still an open issue. From the point of view of many congressmen in the House and in the Senate, they have not had satisfaction in understanding what occurred on that watch when Susan Rice went on those programs and made those statements. Susan Rice, as we all know, is the sacrificial lamb of this process because she was cast aside as Secretary of State in favor of Kerry. But the senators and the congressmen are not satisfied that they know what happened. We lost an ambassador there. That is a big event in U.S. history. The number of ambassadors killed in the line of duty is, I think, 10 or more. It's not really a big number. So when we lose an ambassador, that's a big story. And when a representative of the administration goes on TV and says it's about a movie when it's actually a terrorist attack, and by the way, the news yesterday was that one of the suspects in the Benghazi attack was extradited from Turkey. The Turkish police arrested him, extradited him to Tunisia, and the judge released this suspect in Tunisia, released him, and that there's another individual in Tunisia who was involved with this, who is actually at large and hasn't even been indicted for this attack. So this Benghazi thing is big time, and particularly the Republicans, but also many Democrats have said, we need to know what happened. Now, it turned out that Hillary Clinton had her medical emergency, so that kind of put that aside for the time being, and that may mean that she will never come and testify in actuality, in reality. But what was on the plate at the end of the year, and in fact the House Foreign Affairs Committee chairperson, Ilyana Ros-Lehtinen, who's actually going out because of term limits, put on her Twitter page, on her Facebook page, all around, Hillary Clinton is coming to testify. She told me she's coming to testify. Then she had her medical emergency. So that kind of was sidestep. So the end of the day, President Obama said, and if you recall at the press conference, he said, if you have a problem about Benghazi, come to me. Don't come to Susan Rice. That's his loyalty to his advisor and to his friend. But at the end of the day, it is true that it's the president's policy that needs to be tested and not be tested. And so I think at this point Hillary Clinton goes in the sunset, at least for the time being, and this issue may never be resolved.
You spoke about Turkey. Walk us into the latest, because we know there's big news coming out of Turkey right now.
Big news. Big news. Turkey has been faced over many, many years with terrorist attacks by the PKK, the Kurdish terrorist organization. And the big news, gigantic news out of Turkey in the last few days is that the Turkish military intelligence organization, the MIT, is negotiating with Abdullah Öcalan, who is in prison in an island off in the Sea of Marmara, in a prison. He was the head of the PKK. And they are discussing with him some sort of a roadmap to peace for a phase down, disarmament of the PKK fighters, and the solution of the Kurdish issue in Turkey. This is very important because I don't think many Americans really appreciate the existential threat that the PKK poses to Turkey. When I was in Turkey in July 2011, when I was teaching at a Turkish university, I mean, the newspaper pages were full of these attacks, including one attack on 10 soldiers. They've had these attacks on a regular basis. And when the situation in Syria deteriorated, where Syria now is in a state of virtual civil war, the Syrians and the Iranians have been empowering the PKK to up and ratchet up their attacks on Turkey. So to be able to solve this would be a tremendous thing. The problem is, how do you negotiate with a terrorist organization and get them to put their arms down when they don't trust the Turkish administration? The roadmap to peace needs to say, no, renounce violence, sit down at the negotiation table. We've seen the same sort of problem with Israel, with Hamas, same sort of thing with Palestinians, same issue. Terrorists, very hard to get them to the negotiating table. So as with the PKK, as with Hamas, hopefully there's a way to get these parties to the negotiating table and put their arms down, but Turkey has a big job ahead at this time to do this.
And much that will continue to follow because we don't know how this is going to play out.
Well, many Turks are extremely skeptical about this situation. They are very skeptical. They're not optimistic because the PKK, and again, I emphasize the fact that most Americans, I don't think Europeans, understand the threat that this group poses, and therefore to solve it would really have to be a buy-in, not only by the Turkish population, but also by all the Kurdish factions. After all, the guy that's running the show is in prison. And when you're in prison, you're not really on a balanced negotiating posture with the people you're negotiating with at the negotiating table.
Mark Myers will continue to follow this and other stories, and we'll see you next month.
Thank you very much. I look forward to it.
All righty. Well, before we close the show, I would like to inform you that Bronx Borough President Ruben Diaz Jr. is urging Bronx residents to make a difference in their communities by applying to join their local community board. The office of the Bronx Borough President is asking Bronx residents to make a difference, and they're asking them as they go forward to do this. Now, there's significant interest in the Bronx that the Borough President feels. He says that they'll be accepting applications for 12 community boards for city residents who reside, work, or have professional or significant interest in the Bronx. The Borough President is quoted as saying, participation on local community boards can provide Bronx residents with a forum to share with their community their expertise and talents. It's important that community residents participate in the decision-making process in their communities on important budget, land use, and service delivery issues. That's coming from the office of Borough President Ruben Diaz Jr. Now, the applications are available at the Borough President's Community Board office. That number is 718-590-3914, which you see on the screen. Or you can call your local community board office if you are interested. Now, applicants can also get forms online. You see the website that's located there. The deadline for the submission for the next round of applicants, as we said, February 8th, 2013. So make sure that you get your applications in. Well, it's definitely been a pleasure coming into your homes. We want to thank all of our guests for joining us, and most of all, we want to thank you, the viewer, for tuning in and watching. Now, you can tune in tonight for the recable cast of Open, 10 p.m. BronxNet Channel 67, or watch us anytime on the web, www.bronxnet.org. And from all of us here on the set of Open, we encourage you to take, I should say, have a great week. Don't forget to keep your heart, your mind, and most of all, this channel wide open. Darren Jaime signing off and saying take care and God bless.